Hi everybody, it's Jeannie from Gardening Jones. Did you know that August 8th is National Leave Zucchini on Your Neighbor's Porch Night? It's only the beginning of July now, but it won't be long before we will be, and many of the gardeners will be, becoming inundated with produce. Hopefully it's that great of a season that we're all overrun with produce. The most obvious thing you can do is give it away and share it, go to a food bank, whatever. But if the reason you're growing it is to stock up on food in your house, there's a couple of things you can do to ease your burden now. I mean, maybe you have enough cucumbers to make pickle relish, but it's 110 degrees in the shade. Who wants to be water bath canning or doing cooking like making tomato sauce? So here's some things I've learned over the years. With tomatoes, for example, you can just core them, drop them in a bag, like any kind of, the brand doesn't matter, freezer bag like this. I like the gallon size because you can really pack a lot in there. Drop them in a bag, throw them in your freezer. You don't need to blanch them, don't need to drop them in that boiling water, any of that stuff. You do need to, it's better if you core them because the skin will slip off except it's stuck to the core. So if you core them, then the skin just slips right off, and it's easy peasy when you go to make your sauce or salsa, whatever you're going to do. Green peppers, again, always wash your vegetables first. It goes without saying, really, but with green peppers, cut them, slice them, throw them in the freezer. You also do not need to blanch them. You could also, we stuff jalapenos with cheese. Just freeze them, and then we make jalapeno poppers. They're also known as armadillo eggs. I'll put the recipe below. Hot peppers will get hotter, just a warning, when you freeze them. Onions store a long time, but you can also chop up the onions. You don't need to blanch them, just throw them in the freezer. So you got tomatoes, hot pepper, onions. One of the biggest ones is zucchini, and I'm going to skip from zucchini to cucumbers first, and I'll tell you why. With cucumbers, it depends on how you're going to use them. You know, at the grocery store they put wax on them because cucumbers are notorious for not holding up. And as much as I like to have cucumbers in my smoothie in the morning, I love cucumbers, I can't go through them fast enough. So what I do is I got jars like this. This is a ball. This is a gallon size. You cannot actually can in these. They're too big. The biggest size you can can in is a quart. But this is a gallon size, and what I will do is I'll make a brine of vinegar, sugar, and salt. Easy enough to find a recipe anywhere online. I'll put it below. And as the cucumbers come in, I'll just top off the ends and maybe slice them. I'm going to make relish, maybe chop them, and just keep throwing them in the brine. Now one thing, and you can store them that way for months. One thing to remember before you can them, you're going to want to drain them and not use that brine because the salt will draw off some of the water. It will reduce the acidity, so you're no longer following a USDA approved recipe. So remember to drain them. But you could put spears in there. You can use any quality food safe container that you want. I just happen to like these because they fit nicely on the shelf and they look so pretty in there when they're full of cucumbers. Sometimes we will chop up cucumbers, zucchini, and do peppers and put them right in, and the onions, and put them right in together so that when it's time to make the relish, most of the work is done and it's just a matter of doing the brine. And I'll do have a canning recipe I'll be putting up too that teaches how to water bath can. It's pretty easy. For zucchini, as I said, you can also chop it up and put it in. If you're going to make zucchini pickles or pickle relish, you can put it in the brine. With zucchini, zucchini is also really good in smoothies. It adds bulk without adding a lot of carbs. So what we'll do is just cut off the ends, maybe cut them in 4 pieces. Well, not if they're huge, we'll cut them much more. And then freeze them. And they'll turn to mush on their own. There's no reason to puree them. The same is true with winter squash. They last for months, but if you get like a real load of winter squash and don't think you can go through it fast enough, you can cook it or not, but it's easier to peel it if you cook it first. Scoop it out, throw it in a bag, and throw it in the freezer. You cannot can squash. There's reasons about air pockets and problems with botulism. I did make a soup from a ball canning book called Thai coconut squash soup. The coconut went in later. Coconut milk was added when you heat the soup up. but the squash was cut in chunks and it was in a broth, so that's another possibility. You can look at recipes for that. But I'm talking about easy stuff like this where you can just toss it. Cucumbers likewise, I'm going to freeze some to put in my smoothies. Cut off 2 ends, maybe quarter them, and just throw them in the freezer. And I expect they'll turn to mush, and that's okay because they're going to be in a smoothie, and there's no problem with that. Now, if you have items, for example, you have an excess of, say, raspberries, there's a couple things you could do. You can make raspberry extract by putting it in vodka, or for that matter, you can make a flavored vodka. You could do that with any of the berries. You can make flavored vinegars, same way, put it in vinegar. There are recipes for canning those that are in an approved, like a ball canning book that you can look for, but you can hold them in the main ingredient until it's time to actually make them. Vinegar is a natural preservative and it will hold them. The same way as you could do with fruit and sugar. You mix fruit and sugar, let it sit for 2 days, add like vodka or brandy, and in a month or so you have actually a flavored brandy. So there's a lot of ways that are pretty simple to put out your food by. If you're going to be making jam or jelly with something like, you can make cowboy candy with hot peppers, or just freeze the peppers, they're going to be getting cooked anyway and turned into jam, so just freeze them and take them out as you need them. So don't stress it. You know, there's a lot of other things like winter squashes can be kept in cool holding. They don't have to be kept cold. I'll put a link up to the green closet that we built. We stored carrots in there too. With carrots, you can wrap them in paper towels. Keep the paper towels moist and keep them in the refrigerator. What we did is we actually put the carrots in a bucket, like you would wash your dishes in kind of bucket. Cover them in sand in layers, and then we just keep the sand moist. Just give it a spritz every once a week or whatever, depending on what the humidity level is. So there's a lot of ways you can hold your food over without having to can in 100-degree temperatures. I'd like to can like in October, when the garden's coming to an end, when it's cooled down, you know, when the days are a little bit shorter and the process is not so overwhelming. So I hope these ideas helped. If they did, please do like those things and subscribe if you hadn't already. The more likes and subscribes the video gets, the more gardeners get to see the information, and I like to share with as many people as possible. So excuse my cities. I just got home from work and I'm working in the garden today. It's 100 degrees, so I'm going to go back inside where the air conditioning is, and I hope this helps you. And happy Leave a Zucchini on your neighbor's porch night come this August. Bye.